Welcome to the ExecMBA podcast. I'm your host, Brett Twitty, and you are listening to a new episode. On this episode of the podcast, I'm excited to share my recent conversation with Hayden Wilson. Hayden is a first-year student in our Executive MBA class of 2024, and he and I recently connected to talk more about his decision to pursue an MBA, what led him to Darden, how things are going in his first year, and so much more. I think you're really going to enjoy this conversation. So without further ado, here's my interview with Hayden Wilson. Hayden, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Brett. Good to be here.
It's great to talk with you. What a time to be alive. ACC tournament is on the television. Here we are in the midst of things, an exciting time of year, spring, hopefully on the horizon, NCAA tournament season, basketball everywhere. And we're recording this podcast. Does it get any better than this?
No, it's couldn't be more excited, and good luck to your Tar Heels in the tournament. I actually had the pleasure of going to the UNC UVA game at JPJ this fall in Charlottesville, and it was such a great game. And then, of course, UNC won the second, so I'm excited for the round three.
That's right, the rubber match here. I couldn't believe the number of current students who somehow got tickets to that UNC UVA game. I guess it helps to know someone on the coaching staff of the UVA men's basketball team, but I think there were like 20 or more people who managed to get to that game, and that tends to be one of the hotter tickets.
Definitely a hot ticket, and big thanks to Johnny Carpenter for helping us out on the ticket front.
Yeah, friend of the podcast. So how are things going, Hayden? How are you doing?
Things are good. I feel like we're just kicking off Q4. I feel like I'm finally hitting my stride in terms of school prep and really gelling. And big shout out to Learning Team 13. Trying to just, they talk about the storming period where you're trying to figure it all out, and now feel like we're really in a cohesive spot trying to figure out how we're gonna all manage workloads. And outside of case prep, I think they're also just super helpful in terms of helping everyone stay on track with not just school, but work and personal things. And it's been such a great experience so far.
Well, we always tell students this is not the most comfortable idea, but we get a lot of questions from prospective students about time commitment and how do people make all this work together. And we tell folks there's a learning curve here. You're not going to be great at it when you start, and there's going to be some trial and error, and it's probably going to take 6-8 months for you to really feel settled. And honestly, that will continue to evolve. I mean, every quarter is kind of its own challenge because you're getting new classes every couple of months. Or what's made you feel like you've turned a corner here in terms of feeling like you've got a rhythm going?
Yeah, it's been really helpful to actually hear from the students the year above. They've been very active, and the one word that they keep using is make sure you give yourself a little grace, right? You are learning a lot of this material for the first time. And so just trying to internalize that, and now having a couple quarters under our sleeves, you just get a better rhythm and motion, and I think you just again hit that stride. So
all right. Well, we'll talk a little bit more about that. We'll make some time also for Learning Team 13, LT 13, as I'm sure y'all refer to yourselves. We've had LT2 from the second year Executive MBA class on the podcast. Probably one of my favorite conversations. I think it's easily probably one of the most complex podcast conversations we've ever had. Maybe 5-6 participants in that conversation. But it was great for students to be able to hear how a learning team works together and how they manage the workload going through the Executive MBA program. And that word grace is really important, even within a learning team, because not everybody's going to be able to give their full effort every single week. And so you're sharing responsibilities in that way. So Hayden, tell us a little bit more about you. Who are you and what's your background?
Oh, sure. I am a native of Phoenix, Arizona. I grew up in a highly competitive household. I was the youngest of 4 boys in my family. I was a Boy Scout growing up. I got to do a lot of really cool hikes and got to see the great state of Arizona, even hike the Grand Canyon with my dad as a young boy. And that was just a great experience. And I'm proud to say I'm actually an Eagle Scout. Then I actually went back east for high school, where I got really into sports, big fan of basketball, football, and lacrosse. And then I found my way to Virginia. My father and 2 older siblings had gone to UVA. I was very fortunate to have gotten into UVA, and I studied history and got a bachelor's degree. And then after graduation, I really fell in love with New York at a young age. So I decided to move up to New York, where I spent the last about 15 years working in the media and advertising space. I'm currently a senior client partner at Oracle, and I work with some of the largest CPG brands to help them with their data strategy and partner with them in various different ways across the digital ecosystem.
How did you decide that you wanted to pursue an MBA? How did that become something that you said, this is the right next step for me?
Yeah, I was actually listening to Tom Petty, which I know is a favorite of yours. And when did I start running down that MBA dream? Funny enough, I actually started my journey back in 2010. I remember grinding and going to GMAT prep courses over the weekends in New York. I actually had a very traumatic GMAT test experience. I won't go into all the details, but the short version is my monitor went blank. I was raising my hand and no one came to fix it. And it was just a very tough experience. And then for whatever reason at the time, I just decided that school was not the right move for me. And then flash forward almost a decade later, I kind of took a macro view of my career. I started to look at a lot of the senior leaders that I looked up to in my industry and close friends, and I realized a lot of them had gotten their MBAs. So I started talking to my family, my friends, and I think everyone really agreed that pursuing an MBA would benefit me both professionally and personally.
I appreciate the Tom Petty shout out. We don't talk about full moon fever enough here on this podcast. I wish we talked about it more.
I've been jamming Tom Petty prepping for this all week. So,
do you have a favorite Petty song?
Won't Back Down. It's a great story of just not giving up and going for it, and just such a classic Tom Petty tune.
Yeah, nice Johnny Cash cover of that out there. Very spare, very different than the Tom Petty original, but yeah, Full Moon Fever. Maybe you just need one album, one Tom Petty album. If you're gonna get one, that's a pretty good one to start with. It is, of course, just a solo album, but the Heartbreakers are still on it. I had that one on cassette back in the day. I'm aging myself terribly at this point, but it's a great cassette.
I feel fortunate. I got to see Tom live at the Garden with Steve Winwood during my time in New York, and then again at Forest Hill Stadium out in New York before he passed away.
So how did you get interested in Darden? I imagine the UVA connection played some role here.
Yeah, I did a ton of research on schools. I attended a ton of information sessions, mock classes. I think hopefully you saw my face a lot in the lead up. But the three really major factors that led me to Darden were, one, I think it had the best mix of in-person and virtual. I love that I could be with my classmates once a month in person. That was really important to me. I think a big part of my MBA journey is building relationships with my classmates and with teachers. And then also having the flexibility to work from home twice a week, and just the convenience that gives me while I'm trying to balance everything in my life. Number two, I really wanted to be in a large city. I lived in New York City for a long time. I think DC has so much to offer, both from business opportunities, cultural events, and it's super accessible. I live in Richmond, and it's very easy for me to get there on the train. Other people drive. The Roslyn grounds are also super convenient for people that fly in. Reagan's like an 8-minute drive. So being in a big city was really, really key. And then lastly, I would say the people. I got amazing vibes from everyone that I spoke with that's associated with Darden. From you, Brett, and the admissions team, to the faculty, to past and current students I spoke with. Darden truly felt like a place where I belonged.
I love that. I think for a lot of people, it's interesting when we talk with prospective students, maybe they start with thinking about things like ranking or brand. And then when you start drilling down, you start thinking about your actual experience. as a student. Things like culture, the people who are going to be in the classroom with you, how people engage with each other. That's the stuff that I think ultimately leads people one direction or another. The sense of community, camaraderie, esprit de corps, which of course I think of as a hallmark of our executive MBA program. Maybe not necessarily something people are expecting with a working professional program, but definitely something I think that comes through when you talk to people who are in this program, who've done this program, just how much they enjoy their classmates.
Absolutely. Yeah. Again, the people I spoke with were really a big draw, and I felt an instant connection, and everyone was so accessible too. I mean, everyone I reached out to was immediately like, "Oh, I'd love to get on the phone with you. I'd love to tell you about Darden." They're very enthusiastic about to tell their experience.
So you mentioned you're in Richmond, and you come into Roslyn for the once a month weekend residencies. What does that travel schedule look like for you? When do you come in? Do you come in on Thursday night? You come in Friday morning? How do you manage that?
Yeah, great question. I wake up early Fridays. I take the Amtrak. It is super easy. It's also $10 to take it from Richmond Staples Mill up to Alexandria, which is about 10 minutes from Roslyn. And then, so I get on the 8:30 train. I get up to Alexandria at 10:30, and then Taylor, my learning team, is very kind and picks me up. She lives a few minutes from the train station, and then I'm up in Roslyn by 11, and then we typically have breakfast, and then I'm ready for homeroom at 11:30, and then kick off classes around noon.
Nice, excellent. All right, a learning team member picking you up from the train station. I love that. So you come to Darden, you're a brand new student. We talked a little bit about this at the outset, sort of getting your sea legs, getting adjusted to the schedule. But what's been the biggest adjustment for you here in the first three quarters or so of the program?
Yeah, I mean, for me, the biggest adjustment has been the balance, right? And how can I prioritize what's most important? Obviously, we're all balancing school, work, and family time. I think Darden has really helped me to be present, both when I'm on grounds and with my classmates and with teachers, but also when I am not, grinding on cases and stuff. I'm with my family. I'm very focused and making sure I'm maximizing my time with them. And then I think it also plays out at work, where I'm just very present when I'm talking to customers and just being very focused with my time.
Is that something you had always done, or is that something that became very clear once you started the program? When did that shift happen? Or maybe that's how you were always engaged.
Yeah, I think that shift is still kind of ongoing and occurring. It's something that, your mind's probably in a lot of places, but I think, given the workload and given all the things I'm trying to balance in my life, it really helps you focus and prioritize what is most important at all times, and just taking everything kind of one step at a time.
Do you have a particular way of sort of figuring out, okay, this is the number one priority? Are you talking with people? Are you, is this just sort of a self-reflection exercise? Because I do think this is something that executive MBA students have to do. Like, you can't do everything all the time. You have to figure out what's most important. So how have you worked through that process?
Yeah, I think reflection plays a big part of that, and I know it's something that the school stresses. But yeah, I would say I have to pause and breathe a lot. I also like to meditate as much as possible. That helps clear the mind, and then writing things down, like physically writing down things, and not just lists, but just trying to remind myself what's top of the list, what's going to fill the me bucket. Because at the end of the day, if I'm not taking care of myself, I'm not taking care of my family or others, and just it's been really helpful. Also, just I've found that I've been focusing on myself, that I've also been exercising a lot more, and I think that's really helped relieve any kind of stress and other impurities, and just kind of push that out. So yeah, working out, meditation, those have been really, really key to this.
Yeah, self-care is something that can very easily get pushed to the side when you're as busy as our executive MBA students are. I've been intrigued though that there's like a wellness initiative bubbling up within your class, which is really cool, and some collaboration across the first and second year executive MBA classes around this, and just people talking about this, trying to bring more of these practices into the weekend residencies. That's been really cool to see.
Yeah, that came pretty organically, and Liza in our cohort has pulled that together. And yeah, they I even saw on our Discord channel, which is how we kind of communicate with each other, that there's a bunch of people going to Barry's boot camp tomorrow, and she's kind of organized that. They're also trying to organize some meditation classes while we're all on grounds together. So yeah, there's definitely been a swell of enthusiasm around wellness as of late. And then I'm also on the Darden Running Club, which is great. We get up early, 6:15 every Saturday, and go and run a few miles around beautiful Washington, D.C.
I know you'll have a weekend residency this weekend, running club, getting together, going for a run on Saturday.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think we're looking at high 30s, maybe low 40s, probably some wind. So it'll won't compare to the 18 degrees I think that we experienced in February. But yeah, looking forward to it, and excited to get out there with my classmates.
Well, you mentioned your family. I want to take a little time here to talk about how did you prepare your family for this experience, and what this might look like, and how have you kept them engaged as you've gone along? You're now in quarter 4 of the program. So what's been the process that you've worked with your family in terms of helping them understand your program experience?
Yeah, it's been great having my wife as a sounding board. She was actually a math major, so she's got more of that quant mind, where I'm a self-proclaimed poet, being a history major. And so it's, going through even like economics, she's like, oh, I remember that course or that concept. So it's been fun to try to educate her along the way. And I think she's really appreciated that I can, exude a little bit of knowledge her way at no cost, I think, and she's been super engaged in terms of helping. Obviously, we're managing 2 young boys at home, and doing a lot of preparation, things as simple as like meal planning and things of that nature have been really helpful to like make everybody kind of clear on what to expect for the week ahead, and help balance everything between work and school and family time.
Do you have a family calendar or some place where you show like blocks of time so people can understand, oh, I've got a learning team meeting, I've got online class tonight? I know that can be something that I've heard from other students can be helpful, but everybody has their own approach here.
Yeah, we have, and this might sound a little like overkill, we actually have 3 working calendars. We have a monthly calendar that sits right in the kitchen. And then I put my daily schedule up on another whiteboard that's right above the fridge. So my wife knows, and it's color coded. I'm probably overly organized. It's like, this is, when I have a work meeting, this is when I have school and class. And then we have a weekly calendar so we can understand kind of meal prep. But yeah, it's super important to talk, and to have that schedule. But then within that schedule, you also have to be really flexible, because you never know what's going to happen. And just being able to be adaptable is really, really key as well.
Well, you mentioned your learning team as well, Learning Team 13. Tell us a little bit more about your learning team.
Yeah, lucky 13. I feel like I hit the jackpot with my learning team. We have a great mix of individuals. We've got Kofi, who's in the healthcare sector, Josh, who's in kind of media and creative like myself, Taylor, who's in the Navy, was a rower, Kate, who works in finance, and Andrew, who works at Amazon and last mile delivery. And I would say everyone has a different strength and weakness. We really prop each other up in different ways. Josh and I, have similar kind of family dynamics. So we talk a lot more on the personal side. Kofi lives in Richmond, so we actually get to see each other. He's very kind and drives me back after the weekend, so we get to catch up and actually get to talk live. Kate's in finance, so I've found that I'm super into finance. So it's really fun to bounce ideas off of her. And she's on the younger side and kind of working her way up in her organization. And I'm trying to just impart some of my leadership knowledge to her. And then Taylor and I, we call it Battle Excels, but during a lot of our quant classes, we'll both be in the spreadsheets at the same time, kind of going at it and trying to update different numbers. So that's always a fun experience. And then Andrew just had a baby. Very excited for him and his new daughter. But Andrew's great at keeping us all organized. He's been awesome on the prep front and just keeping us all on track throughout. So everyone brings something different and able to pull different aspects from each of my different team members.
How does the team work together? What's the schedule that you follow, or just your general approach as a team?
Yeah, so we for case prep specifically, we have an Excel grid that we do. We have redundancies where we assign 2 people to every case. And so we make sure to get all of our notes up in advance. And then we typically will meet for like an hour or 2 before every on-grounds weekend. So we actually are meeting tonight before our weekend upcoming.
Do you typically meet on the Thursday before the on-grounds residency? Because it is in the other weeks a night when you would have distance class. And so sometimes can be easier to slot into one of these days where you would have already had a commitment, but you don't because you don't have distance class in the week leading up to the residency.
Yeah, we have played around with different days, but yes, we've sort of landed on Thursdays. And the other piece of it is recency. So making sure that the cases are still really fresh. And so we're actually talking through them the day before the on-grounds allows us to kind of remember and re-engage with the material to make sure that we're really ready for the weekend ahead.
I want to ask you about something that you shared. You mentioned that you discovered this passion or interest in finance. You also said earlier that you are a self-professed poet. So how did you get interested in finance? Did you know that this was something that was interesting to you? Did this spark while you were in the program? I'm curious.
Great question. I think that the finance interest has always been kind of in the back of my head. I think as I thought about applying to business school, that was a big motivator for me, was getting some more quant skills, because that was somewhere where I'd never really gotten any formal training. And so I took Bob's financial management policies class. I wouldn't say accounting is for me, but it is helpful in terms of just understanding the overall landscape, and a lot of topics such as like stocks and stock compensation. And there's just different aspects of finance that I've really found I've gravitated towards, and something that I'm potentially going to try to pursue more in the coming months and years.
I love that, because we always tell prospective students there's an aspect of self-discovery that happens because you are taking this broad core. So before you even move into an elective. So the first year of the Executive MBA program, all core curriculum, and you just never know what class might spark, what might capture your interest.
Yeah, and I would say a big part of that was also just struggling with the material, because finance was so new to me, and just, again, like giving myself that grace. But it was something that I found I really enjoyed struggling with and really grappled with, because I was naturally just really enthusiastic about it.
Did you think about the MBA curriculum and say, gosh, I'm going to have to take accounting, I'm going to take finance, I'm going to have to take economics, I'm going to take these quantitative courses? Is that something that you had to work through, or that you thought about?
You know, I didn't think about it from like the specific course. I just thought about it more broadly of like, how can I build my quant knowledge? And once you're in the courses, and I remember Q3, which is a tough quarter, you do finance and accounting, but there's probably some reason behind it, because there's a lot of cross-pollination in terms of the knowledge base that you're learning. And economics also then ties in. And so like, once you get into it, you start seeing how everything's really related. And then obviously with the case method, you are looking at cases from so many different angles. So it's really fun to bridge the kind of poet side with all this new quant knowledge to figure out how to do various leaders and managers get to these decisions, and what are the numbers and the data that they're looking at to get there?
I appreciate what you shared there, because I think sometimes people think, oh, I'm going to have to like really get into like the details of accounting, like I'm going to debits and credits and all this kind of stuff. And the reality is, at least when I talk with folks about the case discussions, the focus is much more on kind of taking that senior leader perspective, thinking about it from the perspective of, all right, I've got to make a decision here. What do we think the decision should be? Maybe there's a strategic component. Maybe there's other things that we need to be thinking about. But the way you're learning it might be a little bit different than, or a lot different than how people previously knew the subject in undergrad or another time in their life.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's kind of the technical side where you have to learn kind of how do you compute something, and then there's the case. So how do you apply the technical side to the case? But yeah, overall, it's and all of our finance professors are very focused and have been very clear up front before classes start that their job is to teach us the broader level. We're not expected to be certified public accountants. We're not expected to go run large hedge funds in finance. We are here to get a broader understanding of these concepts and learning how to apply those at the executive level.
So how would you describe the case method? And this is building on some of the things we're talking about here. A lot of prospective students, they know that Darden is a case method school, but can sometimes feel a little nervous to say, can you tell me exactly what the case method is? Because it doesn't reveal itself necessarily. So how do you explain what the case method is, what this learning experience is like to people who don't know as much about it?
Yeah. Shout out to section B, which I've been in both quarters. I think it's the best section. I'm obviously biased. The case method, everyone comes prepared to talk through a very specific, not only topic, but then also, there's typically a protagonist and they are wrangling with a decision. And as we have gone on a few quarters, it's nice to know where people work, because, for example, we have a leading organizations case coming up, and there's a whole case on rowing, and I'm going to go tee up Taylor, who I know rowed at Navy, and she's going to be able to give her personal perspective on what that's like. And then as the discussion goes on, you're going to have other people chime in with personal experiences. And what I love about the executive program specifically is you've got people that have been in their professions for, on average, 14, 15 years. They bring so much knowledge to the classroom. And so, obviously we're all learning the material, the technical pieces, learning and reading the case. But the magic really happens in the classroom, and the teachers their goal is not to talk. Their goal is to guide the conversation, kind of kickstart, and then let all the students go around and teach each other and talk through the material. And there's not always a right answer. There's two sides to most coins, and sometimes 4 or 5 sides to a different case. But the real magic happens in the classroom, and I think the teachers are such a critical part of facilitating a really engaging conversation.
So how do you figure out how to kind of get into the discussion? Like, so you're a student there, the discussion's happening, people are speaking from their experience, they're sharing, how they're looking at things from a student perspective. How do you figure out where you can add value or contribute to the conversation?
It's really difficult, especially at first, because I'm the type of person that wants to just jump in. And what I have to remind myself that what's most important is that I'm contributing and adding value to the room, right? If it's just a comment from the reading, that's not going to really enliven the conversation. And so you sort of have to be really patient and pick your battles. And over time, now we're in Q4, you start kind of seeing the flow of certain classes. And if you start trying to better understand where it's going to go, and then you can kind of figure out where you can inject a thought. And then also just being okay that, you're not going to get called on in every class. You have to think about the fact that we are going to be over, call it 13 classes, and just making sure that you're picking your battles right and getting your contribution in when it makes the most sense.
I appreciate that point. I think that is also, I mean, when students, and we've talked about this with some of our incoming students on our recent town halls, people find out that participation is a good chunk of your grade in these classes. And so where people's brain goes to initially is, oh, I've got to talk, I've got to get in here, I'm being graded, I'm being evaluated on participation. That tends to be the first response. And then there's like a calibration thing that happens. Maybe the faculty share some feedback. Maybe people start to get a feel for the rhythm of the class. Like, you don't want to be talking all the time. And to your point, you want to find a way to add value. And by the way, the faculty are not going to keep calling on people. They're going to try to spread it out around the room. At least that's my impression. And so getting comfortable with like, okay, I'm not going to speak in every class, and I'm going to have to think about where I can add to this conversation. We talked about learning curves. That strikes me as one of the learning curves for every student at Darden.
Yeah, and I will also note that most professors will send you halfway through the quarter, they'll send you where you are in participation, knowing that is a pretty sizable part of your grade. And so if you're behind, you've got plenty of classes to catch up. And so it's just nice to know kind of where you stand halfway through each quarter.
Well, Hayden, here you are, Q4. We're approaching a weekend residency. I wonder, do you have a favorite memory from the program thus far? I know it's still early days, but anything jump out to you?
Yeah, back in, Q1, which seems like ages ago, in October, we had a really awesome reception on the rooftop at Sands Family Grounds. And plus ones were invited. Our professors came. There was food and drinks on the rooftop. It was a beautiful night. There was a full moon, I remember vividly, and the moon was rising right behind the Washington Monument. You could see the entire mall. It was just an absolutely beautiful setting, tons of great people. And I really enjoyed getting to know a lot of the plus ones. It was one of my first opportunities to meet some of my classmates' spouses. So that was just a really special moment early on in the program.
Yeah, it's hard to beat that view. Now, the rooftop is not our space, but we do get to use it from time to time. It's a building amenity, and I've been up there a few times. It never gets old to be able to look at DC from the top of a 31-story building, looking out across all of the Capital Region. You can see the National Mall. Just a beautiful space.
Absolutely.
All right. It's also, as I mentioned, early days, but I wonder, as you look back on the first 6-7 months of the program, where you started to where you are now, what do you think of as the impact of the program for you thus far?
They say that the MBA journey is like a transformation. So I think I'm kind of in the middle of that transformation, and I would say the impact probably hasn't fully realized itself yet, but it's coming. But I've really found that I've become a better communicator, and it's been super helpful. I at work, I'm like finding more ways to engage with executives and chat with people on more an executive level. At home, I'm like overly communicating my schedule and my needs. And then with my learning team, like we're texting all the time and like catching up. And so I would say that, one of the profound early impacts that I've noticed is just being a better communicator, which, we're all humans and we all need help, and being able to just converse with different people and get perspective and has been really, really awesome and really impactful so far.
What do you think sparked that communication growth? Was there a moment in the program, or just being around other people? I'm wondering what helped sort of push you in this direction.
I'm trying to think if there was like a specific moment. I think just overall, again, just balancing everything. You just have to be really open and honest with everyone around you in order to maximize your efforts, right? Because at the end of the day, we are all busy, we were all balancing a lot. And so being able to communicate where you are, whether you're struggling with the class, whether you've got some capacity to take on more casework for a fellow classmate, whether that's saying, hey, honey, we need to make sure we haven't gone on a date night in a few weeks. We really need to lock in a time to go out. So just being mindful of everything that's going on, and then be able to communicate how you're feeling, what you're going through, because there's so many people that are there to support you through your journey. And the only way that they're able to do it is if you tell them what's going on.
I appreciate that. And I think that's also very empowering for students, particularly as you talk with your classmates, but other people, for them to know what you're feeling, what you're dealing with. This is not easy. I think it's fair to say, and it can be really affirming for somebody to say, look, I'm having a hard time right now. This stuff is not making sense. And somebody else on your learning team, somebody else on your classmate, or maybe several other people will say, me too. I'm having a hard time with this. And it becomes like, well, of course, you're not the only person who feels this way. There are other people who are also feeling challenged, and whatever the case may be. It can be harder to be vulnerable in that way, but I do like to think, Hayden, that there's a culture in the program that really encourages that promotes that, and makes it safe for people to have that conversation.
Yeah, I think the openness is there. I mean, Darden is such an amazing testing ground to try new experiences, but the people's vulnerability is so present, and everyone is so open and honest, and being able to connect not only in the classroom but one-on-one with some of my classmates on some very deep and personal things. I remember taking a walk with one of my classmates and really getting into something very heavy, and just the fact that we have each other and that support network is so important. And yeah, we're all, you never know what someone's dealing with and what they're going through, but just being present and being there for them is just so nice. And for me, I love being able to have a positive impact on those people around me, and hopefully people are feeling that. And that's been something I've really enjoyed throughout the program.
Well, what are you looking forward to in the coming months? No, there's a lot going on all the time, but I wonder what you're looking forward to as you look ahead.
Yeah, obviously March Madness is coming up, and I don't know when this will be posted, but obviously that is very, very important to me. I've been a college basketball fan my whole life and a UVA fan my whole life. So national champs 2019. And then, yeah, just the spring. I'm thinking about going back to Foxfield. I know Darden has a big tent that they do at the horse race in Charlottesville. So I think that'll be a really fun cultural experience. And I'm also part of the Darden Run Club. So just getting out and having some warmer weather as we take in the beautiful sights around DC.
It's interesting. We get asked by prospective students about time in Charlottesville, given that the base location for the Executive MBA program is Roslyn, and you have the two leadership residencies, but invariably we get asked, are there other opportunities to go to Charlottesville? Can I do that? And what we always share is that there's a lot of organic trips that just pop up. Students coordinating, hey, we're going to a football game. To your point earlier, we're going to a basketball game. Even if it's on a weeknight, people still find their way there. And Foxfield, things like this. It's interesting to me, even students who weren't so sure about Charlottesville are like, okay, DC is easier for me, but I guess, you got the two leadership residencies in Charlottesville. I guess I'll go. Within the first week of being there, they're like, how do we get back here? How do I spend more time here? It's so great. And that is, and that's one of the great things about the program. I think that there's a lot that the students coordinate on their own, just finding ways to get back to Charlottesville to spend a little bit more time there.
Absolutely. Yeah, I remember this past fall, one of my classmates, Craig, just happened to pick a football game to go to. And he lives in Chicago, and he flew down and went to the game, and I happened to just be there on a random weekend with my family. And we're right by the lawn, and I saw Craig and I waved him down, and we got to catch up and walked around, and it just happened very organically that he just happened to make his way to Charlottesville. It was such a great way to connect and catch up with him. And I've also just found myself in Charlottesville a lot more, being more just connected back to Virginia I was in Charlottesville 2 weekends ago, just passing through. So it's been great to get back on grounds.
That's one of the reasons why we have the leadership residencies in Charlottesville, because we want students not only feel connected to Darden and the Executive MBA program, we also want students to feel like they're part of the university community and UVA students. So I'm so glad to hear. Every time I hear about groups of students going to football games and basketball games and doing all this kind of stuff, that makes me so happy, because we do want them to feel like UVA students. And it is one of the nice things about being in the Executive MBA program, particularly come March Madness. UVA men's basketball tends to be pretty strong, and at least in recent years. And so to your point about the 2019 national championship, so gives you a team to pull for if you don't necessarily have one out there.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've been a lifelong UVA fan, but it's been really nice to see some of my classmates also, wearing the UVA hats and the Darden shirts, of course, and really embrace Virginia sports. It's been really, really cool to see.
All right, last question for you here, Hayden. What's a piece of advice you would share with our listeners who are thinking about their own MBA journeys?
Yeah, great question. I would say don't get overwhelmed by the process. I would say take a breath, open your application checklist, and just start tackling one element at a time. I remember when I had started my application, I just had my second child. And so if I can get through the application process with a newborn and a toddler, so can you.
I love that advice, because I think sometimes when people think about applying to business school, that's in all caps, it feels like this very daunting process. But to your point, there's a lot of small steps along the way. So just incrementalize it, open an application. Step 1, step 2, read through the application and really kind of get organized about what you might need to submit as part of the application packet. I always encourage candidates to think about what they affirmatively want to share with the admissions committee. What are those priorities they absolutely want to make sure come through the application? And it's an initial introduction to who you are. So even a little bit of pre-work saying, here's like the 5 or 6 things that I want to make sure people know about me at the end of this when they read this application. And then thinking about how each element of the application can help in that process. Like, just break it down. It becomes less abstract. It becomes less daunting. And to your point, you kind of pick up momentum as you go, a little bit as you go. And eventually, next thing you know, your application's done and you press submit.
Yeah, I agree with all that. And I would also just add, talk to as many people as possible before making your decision. I know I personally connected with at least 5 current Darden students. Again, they were very accessible. They were quick to set up time. Their perspective was incredibly helpful, and absolutely, I made the right decision because I was able to talk to so many people before I made mine.
Well, Hayden, thank you so much for taking time out of your day for the podcast. It's great talking with you. I look forward to seeing you and your classmates this weekend for the weekend residency. We'll have some visitors sitting in and observing classes, and it's fun to be able to offer those opportunities again too. So powerful for people to come and see the students engage with each other, and of course, see the case method in action.
Well, I look forward to seeing you this coming weekend as well. Thanks so much for having me on. I really appreciate the conversation.
And that was my interview with Hayden Wilson, a first-year student in our Executive MBA class of 2024. As always, if you have any comments, suggestions, requests, anything you'd like for us to cover here on the podcast, we're all ears. We can be reached at exec, that's EXEC, MBA at darden.virginia.edu. Until next time, stay safe, be well, and thanks for listening.